Hello, and welcome to Spicy Toast Gaming and our Bard Guide for Path of Champions. If you enjoy the video, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Let's get into it. Alright, starting off with a brief overview just to go over what the champion is like and how they play, just so that you can know whether or not this is someone you want to invest both your time and shards into unlocking. So first we have Chimes and Ramp. Much like Teemo, Bard is working on putting a whole bunch of chimes into your deck. So Teemo is more offensive, trying to damage the enemy nexus, but you are trying to be defensive, trying to be beneficial to your deck by putting a bunch of chimes in there. When you draw a card, it might have a chime. If it does, it's going to buff a card in your deck, giving it 1/1. So you're slowly ramping up, building up your units, and by the end of the game, you'll just have cards that are absolutely massive when you drop them on the table. Next is RNG. So it's partially because of the chimes, but also because of his star powers. He is very random, and so some games you're going to have amazing games where the randomness goes in your favor, and then some games you're going to struggle because the randomness is against you. So if you like the randomness aspect in a card game, definitely go towards Bard. If you want something more consistent, you might want to look somewhere else. Next we have Unique. Bard just feels very different to play than any other champion. His ramp feels very different, and so if you're wanting something that is unique, that doesn't play like other champions, Bard might be one for you. Power Reliant. Now this is referring to the powers you get in-game, not your star powers, although he is reliant on those as well. So with certain ones, they really synergize well with Bard, and you can get some really crazy builds, but he's more reliant on these than most other champions. For most champions, you have a good kit, you go in, you know you're going to win a match, and the powers you pick up along the way, they're more just like a nice bonus. For Bard, you really do want those extra powers. You really need them to really get going. And we do have Champ Reliant. Bard is probably one of the most Champ Reliant decks in Runeterra. Bard is key to being able to buff up your board and get more chimes in your deck, so you really need to have him on board and to stay on board. And lastly, High Investment. In my opinion, Bard needs his 3 star powers and a decent amount of levels before he can get more consistent and win against like Galio or Aurelion Sol. So if you're wanting to push against high difficulty, I think you're probably going to need to put a lot of time and shards into him to get him off the ground, whereas most other champions like Vayne are very strong right out the gate. Alright, that was just a brief overview though. Let's go take a look in-game and further discuss some of these points I made in this overview. In-game now with Bard, you see we have him at level 26 and 3 stars. So he is 4 mana, starts out as a 2/5, and then attack, plant 3 chimes on random cards in your deck, and then he levels up when you've increased the total stats of allies in play or hand by 20 or more. Now he has a unique origin, not just for deck building, but round start, if you have 3+ mana gems, plant a chime in your deck for each Bard that started the game in your deck. So this is important. That means it's not going to work, and you can't cheese it with something like counterfeit copies, but the more Bards you have in your deck, then the more chimes you're going to get each round once you hit the 3 mana gems. So you want to be stacking a lot of Bards, and that can help just your ramp be a lot faster. Now the important thing is once he levels up, now you plant 6 chimes on random cards in your deck, and when you activate a chime, grant 1/1 to a random ally in play. So normally, the chimes are just granting a random ally in hand 1/1, but then once you have the leveled up Bard, it's now also giving it to one of your cards that's actually on your board. So just helping you get a lot of bigger cards, not just for your deck, but then, well, not just for your hand, but also in play. His champion spell, 3-cost burst, draw a follower, and then activate the effects of all boons in the top 3 cards of your deck. So what this does is, since it's drawing a follower, that card gets any chimes it has on it will activate, and then it will activate the effect of the top 3. So you can use this to both draw a unit and then just buff your deck or your hand quite a lot. And if you have Bard on the board, then he's also going to be buffing your entire board by a good amount. So a very good spell, and one we're going to normally try to get more of. So taking a look at the star powers. So when you summon an ally with buff stats, grant it 2 random keywords. That's with the Caretaker Blessing 2. If you just have the rank 1, then it's a random keyword. The 2-star is when you draw a card with chimes on it, plant a chime on a random card in your deck. So just helping you further put more chimes in your deck as you get going, and then also giving you random keywords, which is very nice. But this does have to be a unit with buffed stats, so you want to always be playing, if possible, a buffed unit. So in the early game, when you don't have too many chimes yet, you want to be trying to play cards that are buffed. And so as you're going through an adventure, you're trying to get especially items on your cards that give it a flat stat increase. So like a studded leather 1/1, anything like that will count as buff stats. And so when it's played, it'll then get those random keywords. So you normally don't want to be playing any cards that aren't buffed, because then it just won't get those keywords and you'll really miss out. And this is really where some of the randomness comes in for Bard, because some of those keywords can be really good, really help you with sustain or win the game, like if you got lifesteal, but sometimes you're just going to get bad keywords that don't help you out, and you'll end up losing the game or not getting any sustain. Alright, taking a look at your starting deck. So we have Bird the Bell Ringer. When I'm summoned, plant a chime on the top card of your deck. Very good. It has that pickaxe with that buff stats, so you know that when you play him, he's going to get those 2 keywords. And then he's automatically putting a chime on the top card, so you know next card you draw will have a chime on it. Very nice. We have Bandle Commando. Elusive, very helpful. Once it gets the Phage, it's a very good card. Before then, it's a bit meh. But with the Phage, it's a 3/4. So again, already has buff stats. You can know you can play this, and you're going to get those extra keywords. And then Nexus Strike, create a Hungry Owl Cat in hand. This is helpful because you don't want to run out of cards or run out of units. Because if you play a chime, or if you draw a card with a chime on it, if you don't have any units in your deck, then that chime is essentially wasted. So you want to always have at least 1 unit in your hand that when you play it, it's going to get buffed up with those chimes and not have any chimes go to waste. So we have Esmus, Breath of the World. This one doesn't have the buff stats, which is a little sad, but it does have a Philosopher's Stone, so you are able to get a little bit more draw. When I'm summoned, plant a chime in the top card of your deck, and it has support, grant my supported ally 1/1. So again, an elusive, nice to have. Sad it doesn't have that buff stats though, but a bit of draw is nice. Stone Stackers, again, no buff stats, 2/3. With Impact and Challenger, it's not bad, but I would potentially consider cutting this card if you're like midway through your adventure and it still doesn't have any buff stats, because normally you can get a better early game card. Like normally I like to just try to get Bird, as many of those in my deck as possible, and then potentially cut the Stone Stackers. But it's usually depends on what's happening in that specific game. If you get some good items on them, then they're great. But if you're just not getting any buffs and all your other cards are, you might want to consider cutting the Stone Stackers. Babbling Bandolier. When I'm summoned, create an Owl Cat in hand again. And this one has just that studded leather, so they're buffed, so they're going to get those keywords every time. Starlight Stag. This one's pretty expensive before you get the Nomad's Medallion, but then once you do have that, this is a very good 3 cost. Overwhelm and Spell Shield. Very nice combo to have, very good stat line. You will have to wait for this to hopefully get some sort of buff though, with its keywords, just so that you can be able to play it safely. We have Bard at 4. Cosmic Binding at 5, and Minimorph at 6. The Minimorph does get double Time Watch, but this is normally pretty expensive to play still. It's not the best spell, but can help you out in some situations. Wish you had some cheaper spells. It's sad that the two you have are at 5 and 6. Feels pretty rough. Cosmic Binding, deal 2 to an enemy and then stun another. Plant 6 chimes on random cards in your deck with a Poro Snack. It's decent, helps you get a little bit more control and some weak removal, but usually you're using this just to either pop Spell Shield or to stun an enemy just so that you can survive a bit longer and get your ramp going a bit more. So that's it for its cards. Pretty good for the most part. Stone Stackers is a bit weak, and Minimorph definitely could be better. Alright, let's take a look at Relics. So, the way I like to play Bard is I don't want to have to rely on chimes. And so with Bard, I like to go with the Corrupted Star Fragment. This is support, kill my supported ally, grant me its keywords and stats. So this counts towards his level up. So you get all those stats, increasing your Bard, and that can help you level up much faster. The Berserker's Buckle, when I survive damage, grant me 2/2. Again, this is helping towards your level up and gets your Bard very strong and tanky, and then you don't feel bad with blocking or even getting Challenger on Bard, so you're taking damage when you attack. It's pretty good. Chameleon's Necklace. This is very important for Bard. Game start, create 2 copies of me in your deck. Like we talked about earlier with his origin, that's going to mean you get more chimes starting off every round getting put in your deck. So some people like to run 3 of these just so that you're getting a massive amount of chimes. You can do that. It does give you more of that RNG style playstyle. I prefer, though, this build. You're still getting some copies, but this way you don't actually have to rely on your chimes. This means you're much more consistent and can just get a massive Bard with every keyword and just use it to destroy the Nexus. So this is what I currently run with, but we'll go take a look at some extras. So going down to the commons, all of the ones that increase your stats can be decent. So like Armadillo Shell, or the Warhammer or Fist that give you the 2 attack and 1 health, or vice versa. Those all can be decent on Bard, just so that you can always play him and get those 2 extra keywords. Now Bard is important enough, and since he's going to be getting extra keywords from killing your units, for him, even if he's not buffed, you still want to play him as soon as possible. But if you have an extra slot and you don't have a lot of other more important fragments or relics, any of the ones that increase your stats by any amount, so like the Armadillo Shell or the Soul Spear, those can be decent just to get those extra keywords when you play him. Chameleon's Necklace, like I said, very important. Some people literally just go 3 of these, and that is a totally valid way to play Bard, because every round you're just getting tons of chimes in your deck. Starchild Staff. Bard is pretty slow with his ramp, so sometimes you're going to be taking a lot of Nexus damage. And then Z Drive Prototype. There's a lot of powers you want to get on Bard, and there's also some very specific ones that really help. So going with some more of these to get those rerolls, not bad. There's just a couple rare relics I want to touch on, other than the ones we already have mentioned. So the Troll King's Crown, you're going to have a lot of very big units. Being sure they have Overwhelm to punch through and destroy the Nexus can be very helpful. I haven't actually been able to try this one in-game, but the Gravedigger Spade, round start, draw 1 and give it fleeting. So getting another draw, more chimes, could be very good and helpful. I do still need to try that one in-game. The Grand General's Counterplan, round start, create a fleeting copy of me in hand. What that's going to do is it's going to make your champion chest or champion spell in your hand, so that can be very good, because when you play it, it's going to put more copies of Bard in your deck. That's great. But then your spell also is drawing a card and activating a whole bunch of chimes. So being able to get one of these every single round to be able to play it can be very helpful and definitely a solid pickup for Bard. I would potentially put this in my third slot once Bard hits 30. Alright, the Card Master's Gambit. So it has that bonus stats so that you always can play Bard and get your 2 keywords, but you also really want to get more rerolls. So this is something that's pretty good on Bard, giving you rerolls throughout the entire game while also getting you those buff stats. That can be very helpful. If you are going for your spells with the counter plan, you potentially want to grab Archangels if you just want to play a lot of spells. That's one that can be decent. I don't think I would personally use it, but I think some people would enjoy that for their playstyle. And then we have the Warhammer flat stats, like I talked about before. Can be decent on Bard with your star powers. Alright, that's it for the in-game portion. Let's go take a look at the long list of powers you potentially want to get on Bard, and then also what support champions could work well with him. Powers for Bard. So, rush them down. When you summon an ally, give it 1/1 this round. This works very well with Bard's level up because you have to be increasing the stats of your cards in play or in your hand. So, every time you summon an ally, it's going to get that 1/1 and further progress your Bard. You want him to get leveled up as soon as possible, so that's helpful. Endurance, when an ally survives damage, grant it 1/1. Again, working towards Bard's level up as well as just helping your units stay on the board and get bigger and bigger. Battlefield Training, round start, grant the weakest ally 1/1. Again, same thing, try to level up Bard while also helping your units get as large as possible. Next group of powers here, Domination, round start, rally. With having large units, you want to be able to use those every round to weaken the enemy, damage their nexus, and then with Bard, you want him attacking as often as possible to put more chimes in your deck, so rally's really good. Fixer Upper, give your weakest ally 3/3. Just like all the common powers, this will level up your Bard insanely fast because you're getting that 3/3 every single round. Very, very good. Definitely grab one of these if you see them in game with Bard. Enfeebling Strike, hold it and hold them off. So all of these are defensive pickups, and with Bard and Ramp, you normally want to be able to buy time for you to power up to take down the enemy. So all of these are just helping you stall out the game. So Enfeebling Strike, when you damage an enemy, reduce its power by the damage dealt. Very good in all situations. Definitely helps you win in some of those longer, drawn-out matches. Hold it, stun the strongest enemy. Again, very nice, just letting you delay and ramp up. Hold them off, frostbite the strongest enemy. Now, you don't want to get hold it and hold them off, because what will happen is it will stun and frostbite the strongest enemy, which can be a problem. So these are very good defensive options. If you see them, they work well on Bard, definitely grab them. Lastly, here for the powers, we have Evolution. Allies have 1/1 for each keyword, and Welcome Gifts. When you summon an ally, granted a random keyword. So really, all of the keyword powers work really well for Bard. Evolution is probably the best power possible for Bard because pretty much all of your units are going to have a large amount of keywords, and you can normally pick up either Welcome Gifts or some of the other common keyword powers, so that your units are just going to have a massive amount of stats every time you play them. Normally your Bard will get leveled up before you even play him. Very, very strong. Always get Evolution if you see it on Bard. Probably hands down the best power you can get, other than maybe like Legendary Duplicate, but even then, Evolution is just so good for Bard. And then Welcome Gifts, when you summon an ally, granted a random keyword. Already what you're doing with your star powers, just kind of tripling down on that same effect. And then the common powers of Fury and Overwhelm also are very good on Bard. One thing that they do is if your units already have that, then their 2 random keywords are going to be 2 other effects. So you're just making it that you have a higher chance of rolling something really powerful like lifesteal on them. So any of the keyword effects or powers are definitely good on Braum. Definitely something to look for if you can get it. Fine, let's go take a look at what support champions work well with Braum. Or Bard. So support champions for Bard. As always, we don't just want to give you a list of support champions, we want to give you why support champions are good so that you can know what you want to look for in the future. So keywords, very important, especially if you're going more with the Bard build of Corrupted Star Fragment, where you're taking the keywords that your units have with Bard. So if you can get specific keywords such as double attack or scout, really powerful ones like that you can't generate normally, then those would be very powerful to get if possible. Evolve, if you have any evolve units, you're going to be evolving them very quickly, so that can also work very well with Bard. And then lastly, we have defensive. Any champions that will help you slow down the game so that you can ramp up and be able to win will definitely help. So for specific champions, Kaisa, obviously she goes with keywords and evolve very well. That can definitely help you out. Victor, so he's going to be generating more keywords every single round. And then if you can get something like Evolution, where you have that 1/1 per every keyword, then Victor's going to be absolutely insane for you and single-handedly win you the game, essentially. And then we have A Soul or Aurelian Soul. So Aurelian Soul, the cards he comes with is a lifesteal unit, as well as a burst heal. So those are very good cards. Now, Aurelian Soul, you're probably not going to ever actually play him, but the cards he comes with are very powerful and help you with that defensive play style and being able to sustain in some of those longer games. So that's it for some of the support champions, and there's definitely others out there, but just wanted to give you some suggestions on what you might want to look for with your support champions. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching that video all the way to the end. If you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe. We're putting out multiple videos every single day for Path of Champions content. So if that interests you, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and welcome to the channel. Have a great day.